To be continued. 3 little words that hold the secret to the next great story. 3 words that will thrill you, confound you, give life to new possibilities. Every variation of To Be Continued is a promise of adventure, a promise of excitement, a promise of unseen wonders and unexplored worlds. A promise that every issue you read makes you a part of a never-ending journey. And behind every page, there will be an unopened door waiting for you. This story to be continued at your local comic book shop today. Visit comicshoplocator.com today.
Hi, I'm Travis, the King of Source Point, and you're watching The Experience.
Hi everybody, I'm Jen King, and this is The Experience, and you're here at Talking Shop, where we love talking to creators that have books that are coming out this week if we can, and this week we're doing a really good job of that because we totally are. Just a reminder that if you like anything that you hear about today, the best way to connect with your comic shop is to use comicshoplocator.com and type in the zip code for where you are. This week it's highly likely that you are traveling and going to see your family for Thanksgiving. So if that's true, you should go check out some local comic shops to wherever you're traveling to. You might find somewhere that you really love and show them some support. And you can also pick up some cool new books, but don't duplicate what you got in your home LCS pull box because they're still pulling those books for you because they love you. All right, everybody, welcome from Scout Comics, Bryan, Peabe, Odimar, and I hope that's right.
That's close.
How do you do the last name?
It's Odimar.
Oh!
You're right there.
I did the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable, as I say.
It's okay. You got Peabe right, though. I always get weird things for that. So.
Oh, really? I don't even know.
Yeah.
How else could you say that?
I've just got it like Peabe. Just, I'm just like, I thought it was pretty clear. Peabe. But yeah.
So where did you get the nickname from?
As a kid, I hated jelly, but I loved peanut butter. And sometimes I would get hot lunch for, like grade school, and the cafeteria person would make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And I guess I was the only kid that did not want jelly on mine. So he kept calling me peanut butter, which eventually turned into Peabe.
Well, that's awesome. So did friends in school call you that also? I'm sure it was not just the lunch person.
It was actually mostly just the lunch person. And, because I was kind of embarrassed. Like he'd just be like, "Here comes peanut butter," and then I kind of just embraced it later on.
I always love how people end up with their nicknames because it's kind of like a Top Gun where they you get saddled with something. It's often not something you would have chosen.
Totally.
So it's always an interesting story.
But I still love peanut butter, so it sticks. Makes sense.
I mean, what's not to love about peanut butter? You have to
True.
really question people that don't like it.
Exactly.
JD says he has a friend that they call Skippy for the exact same reason.
Hey, see? We are somehow connected. They understand the love for the peanut butter.
Oh, yeah. So I understand that your day job is Pandora. Is that right?
Yeah, I am on the design team for Pandora.
So what does that look like? What does that kind of job entail? It seems super interesting.
Basically, my team's in charge of the advertising on Pandora, or custom advertising. So if anyone wants to do anything other than what they're already doing for the campaign and want to do something custom for and on Pandora, that's when our team will come in and do some fun stuff for them.
So are you an expert for graphics? Is that what you've trained in?
Yeah, mostly design, and I did a little bit of rich media stuff as well, so like animated things and some motion graphics.
Yeah, I see that you graduated from Columbia College. That's a
Hmm.
pretty nice school.
I think so in Chicago. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was awesome. I had a great experience there. Met a ton of cool artists, and it's really cool to be inspired by young, hungry minds.
Are you from Chicago? Is that how you chose that school?
I am. I was born and raised there, and then I moved to Oakland in 2008,
Mhm.
and now in Santa Fe.
That's awesome. So
Thanks.
I spent a couple years in Chicago, and it's interesting just for anybody that's never been there. You always have this like outside view of somewhere, and you feel like
Hmm.
you know it. Probably from movies and TV, right? So everyone thinks
Right.
about, I don't know, the mob or whatever from Chicago.
Of course.
The moniker of Windy City, that's completely true.
Oh, totally.
It's like freezing, but the spring, right? The spring makes everything worth it.
Actually, my favorite was fall. I
Yeah,
loved like I thought it was the perfect weather. You got to layer up, but it was also like the calm before the frozen storm that was gonna come and take over for the next few months. But right before like the leaves change, you get that idyllic fall setting. It's
The
just
thing that blew my mind, honestly, about Chicago was the amount of what I call open air malls. I worked in at Skokie at the Old Orchard Mall,
oh
and
no way.
it doesn't seem like if you have a place that's like freezing most of the time, you'd have a place that was you had to walk outside to get. But everyone didn't
Yeah,
care.
actually, in high school, I worked across the street from Old Orchard Mall at a store.
That's so funny.
It was a long commute, but it was like, the first job that would take me and yeah.
Yeah, I loved that area so much. It was
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm glad I got to live there for a little while so I can tell people Chicago's actually really nice.
Yeah. The wind's serious, like I used to work in downtown and sometimes you take a corner and all of a sudden you just feel like ice stabbing your face from all the cold wind and
And you had to legit lean into it, right? Like
yeah,
it would hold you up.
it was horrible.
Yeah, it was the first place I understood that if you like why you needed to cover your face because
Hmm.
you if you breathe in deeply, you could feel it frosting your lungs. Like it was
Oh,
scary.
totally. It was rough. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't miss that at
Not
all.
that part at all. No.
It's one
So
of the main reasons I left.
what drew you to design? Did you always have a
Um,
hand for art?
I did. So the dream was to be an artist, and I wanted to be an illustrator. I think come like into high school and during college, I started doing some illustration and some design. Um, I think I just didn't have the confidence to go all in and be an illustrator and or cartoonist. So, and I felt strong in design, so I kind of leaned into design more, and it kind of just took me where I am today. But always still had the dream of being an illustrator and cartoonist in my head.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you've kind of taken that on. So, did for Thud, the book that
Hmm.
is coming out this week from Scout, did you have
Hmm.
that as a fully realized story in your brain, or how did that? How did you? Because it feels very kind of like Donny Cates's crossover, where it feels like it wants to blur the lines between reality and what's comic.
Yeah, I mean, it's like super loosely autobiographical. It's just kind of a loose story I've always had in my head. Uh, Prior to the book, I just didn't have the writing confidence, so I was always kind of leaning into friends to be like, "Hey, can you write me something so I could draw it and make a comic for it?" And then that kind of never felt, or it always fell through, and I finally just said, "Okay, I have something. I just want to write it out and see how far I can go with it." And it's just been like a loose idea that I've carried with me for a long time, and um, it felt nice to actually finally sit and put it all together and see that it was kind of making sense and I could have fun with it.
So, because you did both, did was it an easier process? Do you think to kind of you didn't have to put all the details down on paper as a script? You could just kind of work that through as you were drawing through?
Yeah, I was, since I'd never done it before, I was trying to figure out what was the process. So at first I was like, all right, I have the outline and I kind of know how I want to fill it in. Let's try it that way. And then at certain points, I'm like, maybe I do need to write a script. And I wrote like a hard script and I'm like, okay, I'm totally going off the script. And, so I kind of found like the loose medium of like, I have the outline, I have a general script that I could change as I go along, and I don't feel bad changing as I go along. Because sometimes some other cool idea kind of pops in your head in the middle of something that could seem way cooler than what you had written down. And luckily, I only had myself to answer to, so there's no like, there was some infighting, but not real like yelling at somebody in real, or going back and forth.
Was there anything about this story that you thought you had planned out in the outline, and because of that creative process, you completely changed?
There were like a couple small things. There's a couple like little character changes. People took on bigger roles than expected, and I just felt it helped more with the full story. That's it. It's just like, little things I can change here and there and make sure it's made sense with the character and the way they started out in the beginning. And luckily, since I was doing it all, like the further along I went in the book, I could change things down in the timeline that I wanted to make sense with changes I made earlier on.
So, is it a limited series? Is it meant to be open?
Right now, there's 8 issues. I have more, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, I definitely have some stuff that I've started already to continue on, but I'm also being told by friends and family to like be present now for it's out, don't think too far, and like let's just enjoy. Like I just can't believe I'm seeing it on shelves next to I've gotten photos where it's next to Thor, I've gotten photos where it's next to Turtles, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Like
those are alphabetical stores, I can tell.
Yeah, the 12-year-old in me is like, you're so cool.
It's true.
I'm loving it.
It's one thing to say, I've always wanted to do a comic book. It's another thing to like kind of make one that you photocopy at, FedEx and show up at a convention and sit at a table. And it's quite another thing to get a company the size of Scout to be like, we want to do your book. How did that happen?
Yeah.
Did they know you from some other way? Did you meet them at a convention? How'd you hook up?
No, like I was just like, the initial plan I had was to go Kickstarter and just kind of try it that route. But my local comic shop in Oakland, Cape and Kowloon Comics, they're like, dude, you should at least try these folks, and they gave me like a small list of folks, but Scout was one of them, and they were the ones that got back and seemed really into the idea, and they got it right away, and everything's been awesome since. It was just a cold email.
Yeah, I think I've seen that most people have luck with Scout, that they seem to definitely be into creator driven original ideas, which this definitely seems like it's a really original idea. Will you walk everybody through kind of like a short pitch, like how you would tease them into wanting to pick up the book?
Sure. The way I've been pitching it is like the book that follows this creative named Bo. He's in his 30s, kind of wandering life and kind of confused about where he wants to be. The one thing that's kind of brought him joy is a character he drew as a child, and it's like the one little bit of joy that he currently has in his life at the moment, and an accident changes all of that, and that's kind of where I leave it.
There's your hook.
Yeah.
Accident changes all that.
Yep.
I love it. Well, it got me hooked. That's all I really needed to because that was essentially what the solicitation copy was for us to do the ordering. And I was like, yep.
Awesome.
So how did you decide? Is this a normal art style for you, the more cartoony art style, or did you just thought it matched well?
No, so that's my normal style. Again, for a long time, I was kind of worried that it didn't look like traditional comic style, I grew up in the 80s and 90s during the big image thing, so as a kid, like big influences were like Jim Lee, Whilce Portacio, Todd McFarlane, and I'm like, I can't draw like those guys, but
No one
I
can
could
draw like
draw
those guys.
totally. But I know how I draw and I know how I want to tell the story, and I kind of just rolled with the way I did, and somehow, some way found some confidence to just be like, this is how you're going to tell the story, and this is how the story needs to be told.
Yeah, I think people that are interested in doing comics should really embrace whatever their art style is. They should do that because it's just like in clothing design, right? No, we don't need another. I'm trying to think of a really famous clothing designer, and I'm losing my mind. I don't know, but anyway, we don't need more of the exact same person. We want a
Totally.
new, right?
Yeah.
And I also know I usually follow writers. I'm drawn to books from writing, which is different than I was in the 90s. In the 90s, I was drawn by art.
For sure.
I found that if I like the writing, that the art kind of disappears into the story, which is really what you want anyway. It should be beautiful, but also not be distracting. And so as long as your voices match for your writing and the art, I say stay with your style. Don't change that.
Totally. And the past few years, I've been really into small press and indie stuff. And, a lot of those folks just totally embrace their style. And, yeah, that's all I was going for. I'm just going to just do it the way I can do it and do it the way I'm happy with it.
So do you have any of your own nerdoms? Do you go to conventions?
Yeah, pre-pandemic, yes. I like going to, I got to go to the big Comic-Con for the first time a couple of years ago with my daughter. That was fun. But generally just stick to kind of local ones. When I was in the Bay, would go to the Oakland and SF Comic-Con. I'm not sure what the names are because I feel like they changed. I know it was WizardCon when I first got to the Bay, and then that, or Wizard World, and then so I'd go to those, and then like small zine shows because like to see what small indie press folks are putting out there. Anything with a magazine or comic book, even if there's only like one or two tables, I'll at least poke my head in to check it out.
So have you set up with your own work yet? Have you tried that?
No, I was like in that weird spot of like I don't have a book out yet, so I don't know if I just sit here and go hello. I didn't really have anything to push, so I was hoping to start doing that maybe next year.
It's super addictive, by the way. The immediate feedback from your customer base is just
Totally.
so wonderful because they have real passion for it, and they'll see you as like superhuman, and you'll think of them as amazing for supporting your work, and you just feed off of each other. It's just the most amazing thing.
Yeah, I've done like little booths for like pins and like t-shirts and stuff for when I've sold, and yeah, like being able to talk to somebody that actually supports you directly and like seeks you out sometimes, it's kind of crazy,
So who are you? Who like if you wanted to meet someone at a convention, like which booth are you going to right away? Who's your go-to person or company who you like to go see?
Like I get really weird about that because I don't know how to approach artists I really like. I get super intimidated and I kind of just try to grab stuff and go. But the big one for me at Comic-Con when I went with my daughters, I got to meet Jay Lee. That was super cool. There's a lot of current artists I'd really like to talk to or meet. Like I really like Daniel Warren Johnson stuff, especially the past couple of years. Paul Pope's work is amazing. James Sticco. It's all these like artists that I'm like I could never touch visually just because like they're so detailed and their work. I don't know, like Daniel Warren Johnson has such crazy movement in all his stuff. I'm like just trying to capture some movement in my, you know. I don't know. I just wouldn't know what to say other than, can I buy your book that I don't have? Like, that's always a big thing for me. Like when I get to meet artists that have like, whether it's like little art books or little zines that they'd never sell in stores, and just collecting those.
Yeah, that's something special that not just everybody has in their box.
Yeah, and it's, I could hold it in my hands instead of just staring at it on Instagram and trying to look at details on a screen.
Yeah, it's I know what you mean by those the getting in front of your favorite artist and being like, how do I tell them how much I like them, but not make it so extreme that they're like, okay, you're too much. You have to go now.
Like, I need security, please, security. Come here. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And it's so hard to like, once you're like put on the spot and you see them, I don't even know how to talk. Like, luckily there's some of those artists that are awesome and just kind of talk to you and have a regular conversation. And it's like, okay, I don't need to tell them how awesome they are because they already know.
Yeah,
And we could just talk like regular people.
But there's some artists that are super gregarious, right? And they are definitely people artists, like Neil Adams. If you go to his booth, he'll talk your ear off. But then I realize there's a lot of artists that are very shy people that just in general, they're the ones that are just looking at their stuff and drawing and don't put an eyeball on you as you walk by the booth because they just are introverts. So
totally. I mean, somebody was telling me about it, and it's like, we're stuck alone in a room by ourselves for hours just drawing. And now we're put into like a room with thousands of people that kind of want to, and there's a good chunk of people that want to talk to you. And it's like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do this.
Oh, and the thing that you'll probably find is that if they follow you on social media and are already a fan of you, because of following you, they often have already a personal connection to you, even though you've never met them. So you might see people walk up to you and act like they know you, or, they do know about you, but they'll talk about your dog and all the other kind of things. And you're like, going, do I know you? Did we go to like a party earlier?
And I could talk. My wife says that I could talk too much sometimes. So I am looking forward to those very random conversations with people.
Yeah. Well, and especially now. Here's the problem now. Even if you know somebody on the internet, this is what you're going to see when you go to con.
Right. Totally.
Just that much.
Yeah. Yeah. We got to go to like a small con out here, and there was a couple artists that I did want to talk to, and I'm like, I'm not 100% sure if that's that, because they weren't behind their booth. They're kind of close to it, and I'm like, I don't know what to do right now.
Well, and you also don't want to be like that. I'm such a big fan, Mr. Lee. And you're like, yeah, I'm the booth sitter that's holding his space while he has lunch. I've done that before. You're like, no, that's not me. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
Tell him I said that then.
Can I just leave a Post-it note, please?
I'll just put a shame on you. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So you said 8 issues for this book. Do you have any other creations in mind?
I do. I have a couple that I'm working on. I've taken a bit of a break from them just to kind of focus on this release. I have, just a couple things loosely outlined. I have one that I actually started already. But yeah, again, it took a break just because I'm like, I can't juggle all of this. This is a lot.
Lord, I don't know how people like, I think Cullen Bunn is currently writing 10 books at the same time. I don't know how he keeps all those stories straight.
I don't understand it. Yeah.
They're superhuman, that's clear.
Totally. Like when I was doing this, I was like, this is my focus. And there's also part of me that was worried that I would get bored because it's a long process until it comes out, but I stayed focused. But I think I stayed focused because outside of work, this was like the other work, and that was, it was one story, and I needed to get it out, and I wanted to get it done. But yeah, I don't know how people could do multiple stories.
So, do you feel like that's kind of like a fun part of your job, a fun job, and then you've got your regular like I make money at it job, or are they both so fun that they're just like two things in your life that you just enjoy doing?
They're two totally different things in my life. Like my day job's fun and I love the people I work with. This is but the comic is like the dream project, you know. It's something I always thought about doing since as far back as I could remember. And for like, you know, some of my friends and family, they're just like, they've just known that I wanted to do something like this since I was a kid. So I don't know, it's super exciting. My dad's been really cute. He's been driving around all of Chicago with my nephew, going to different shops, picking up a copy or two, and then telling him all about it. And it's been real, you know, it's cool that they get to see it on the shelves as well.
That's so cool. Your dad's awesome.
Yeah, he's pretty cool for doing that.
So you said that you have other things that are kind of like in the background you're thinking about working on. If you, let's just do hypothetical fun. This thud gets a lot of attention and you get approached by someone that wants to work with you on those other projects. Who would it be?
Oh, man. I don't know. That's a heavy question. I never even thought about that. Yeah.
It could totally happen, you know.
Maybe. But I think I'd want to do the drawing aspect of it, but I've actually been kind of enjoying the writing too, so I wouldn't know what part I'd want to give up. Yeah, holy cow. That's a question I've never even thought about. I mean, artist-wise, I could think of a few, but I don't know. It's really weird because seeing as how I got to do all this by myself, I feel like I've started to develop some control issues. So I don't know, like, if I don't know how I would work with somebody, you know, like, yeah, this is something I do need to think about though, because if that ever came up, that would be super cool.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, let everybody know. I think we've posted up a couple of links to your social media, but just say it out loud so everybody knows.
Okay. Oh, I'm just mostly on Instagram and Twitter at Peabe, and it's the same spelling as my name or my nickname. You can find most of my art there. It's generally now mostly about Thud, but you know, I have other random illustrations up there.
That's perfect.
A little bit of family stuff, but.
All right, everybody, just so that you are aware, you should go to your local comic shop and pick up Thud, which is Peabe's awesome book. And there are multiple covers here. So you have lots of choices for it, including, I love this homage. That's a really good one.
That was a fun one.
All right. Thank you so much, Peabe. I love talking to you. I look forward to inviting you back to talk about your books when they the other projects come out, because I'm
totally game. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you so much. Stay tuned, everyone out there on The Experience. Up next, Dr. Christy Blanch.
Today's comics market is ripe with new titles by creators who are determined to get their books into your hands. My name is Henri Compen. For the last decade, I've been making and selling my own creator-owned comics and dealing as a collector in live sales. My signature series, Yi Sun Shin, is the book that cannot be defeated in battle and has over 250,000 copies in print. Now I'm taking comics to the next level and laying the groundwork for my fellow creators to get their voices heard so they can connect directly with you. This is your chance to engage live with top comic book talent and get your comics signed without having to wait in long lines or pay any fees. But remember, we only have a limited amount of their books in stock, so always remember to call it as you see it.
There's something for every imagination at your local comic shop. Visit comicshoplocator.com to find a store near you.
Hey, I'm Joe Brewitt. I'm the publisher and CEO of Aftershock Comics, and you're watching The Experience.
Yeah, I like to get down to that lead in. So much fun. All right, we're talking shop with creators that have books coming out this week. And I cannot imagine a bigger release this week than Good Boy. And with us to talk about such things as Dr. Christy Blanch.
Hello.
Hello, how's the shop going?
It's going well. We're just getting ready for tomorrow.
Are you exhausted?
Yes, very.
Did you like change the entire look of the shop and turn it into like the antique store scene from John Wick?
No, I so wish. That would have been so cool. I don't have that much energy, but yeah, we're making a whole section for Good Boy. So,
I think that you should.
Yeah,
I think
very excited about it.
Everyone comes.
Very excited about it. Garrett and Kit and Dave and I are so proud of this book, and just we can't wait for people to read it. And you've been such a big supporter of it, so thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
I can't wait to get all my cool stuff. Actually, someone asked me today, like, do you have a variant for this book? I'm like, I surely do. Oh, yeah, I do.
We have so many variants. So I've lost track, and everybody's like, can I get them from you? And I'm like, I don't have them. They're store variants. This is how it works. They don't send me a bunch. You go here, these are for you. So it's I love the book. I love our team. We've got so many other books coming up. Now this one is 3 issues, but we did announce at New York. We announced volumes 2 and volume 3. And so we've got volume 2 written, and it's being drawn right now. We have the ash can ready. So you'll get the ash can when you get your Kickstarter stuff, because that went out. And it's starting to trickle in. People are getting their Kickstarter stuff. We had a couple delays because of there were some errors in damages in the printing. And we just didn't feel comfortable sending those to people. So we're like, nope, redo. So it was a little later, but yeah.
Okay, so what happened first? Was it just like a discussion between you and Garrett, and you guys were like baloneying about your love about John Wick, and you just were like,
it's kind of funny. So I was talking with Travis McIntyre, Source Point Press, our the big boss. We were just chatting at a convention. I don't even remember which one it was. And it might have been C2E2. No, because I'd met Garrett before then. I don't know. I don't remember. And I just met Garrett. And he comes over and goes, hey, what you guys talking about? You know, Garrett, he's like, I don't talk like that. And I'm like, yeah, you do. And he was.
There'll be an F-bomb in there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh. And I said, oh, we're talking about John Wick. And he was like, oh, I've never seen him. And I was like, you need to go away and you can come back and sit at the big kids table when you've watched it. And he got pouty, but he went home and watched it that weekend because that week because he felt so bad. He watched 1 and 2, and 3 was, I think, just getting ready to come out. So, and he was like, I never watched it because it's like, sounds so stupid. It shouldn't work. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It should not work, but it does. And it works, as you know, because we're both, you guys don't know, Jen and I are both huge John Wick fans. Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, we're moving into this house and I'm like, these are my John Wick things. They go first. So they're like up on the mantle, you know, it's just, you know, here's my blood marker. Here's Sophia's blood marker. You know, it's just, it's ridiculous. But, and yes, Jeff Chandler, he does like to drop the F-bomb. And hi, Jeff. And so, we're huge John Wick fans. So then he calls me and he goes, hey, I want us to do a book. And I'm like, okay. He goes, yeah, I want to do a book about John Wick. And I'm like, oh, but they've done, license. And he's like, no. We're going to do one where the dog lives. And I was like, I'm in. And he was like, I haven't told you anything else. And I'm like, I'm in. I mean, I'm in.
It's all the pitch it needs.
Yeah, that's it. You say John Wick, yes. It's like if you say Columbo, yes. Yeah. I'm like, I don't care what it is. It's Columbo did, yes. So that's how it was. He goes, I decided it's like I probably wouldn't have watched it if it wasn't for you. And I knew I couldn't do it without the biggest, John Wick fan I know. So this is kind of our love letter the first series, this first volume is our love letter to John Wick. There's a lot of John Wickisms in there. When you get to the second volume, it takes its own, there's still John Wick in there. You can still feel it, but it becomes its own thing. And we still have our own thing. And but if you don't know John Wick, you'll still be able to watch this and go, or read this and go, oh, this is really cool. But if you know John Wick, you're going to go, oh, this is really cool, because it is. It's John Wick.
How did you come up with the name Flint Sparks? I've never got to ask you that before.
Well, John Wick, it's like, don't light his wick, he'll explode. So Flint Sparks it sparks. Wick sparks. So it's just kind of the little same thing. Yeah. So hi, Pat. And Garrett does talk like that. See? Hey, what you guys doing? He walks like that too. Yeah, he's gonna get so mad at me when he sees this.
I don't know if it's Kyle or JD that says, and I'm probably sure it's Kyle. It says, "Do you mean the king of Source Point?" Because it's so funny. We run a little push that we got from New York Comic Con, in which he says he's the king of Source Point.
Yes,
but it's also funny. I love watching it because if you watch in the video, it's like he starts to say who he is, but then he looks down like he has a piece of paper to tell him who he is.
Oh goodness.
So who knows what was actually happening while he's looking down? Or maybe there was like an email that came in on his.
It could be. Who knows? I mean, I'll do that. I'm like, because my phone will ding, and I'll look at it, even though I know it's nothing. Usually, it's telling me during a show when I'm standing the whole time. It'll ding and go, "It's time to stand," and I'm like, "I'll kill you! Watch. I've been standing for 2 hours.
You're not the boss of me."
Watch Lucas me. Patterson, hi.
Lucas, love.
Yes. Yeah, Lucas has been we've had so much support on this book. And first of all, I have to say Kit's art. Yeah. Kit's a gem. No one else can have him. He's ours, so stay away. Kit is a gem. And I'll tell you what, we'll write things and send it to him. And we'll have in our mind, like just make this whatever. And we'll have in our mind what it looks like, and we'll get it back, and it's better than we could even possibly, like in episode in volume 2 or number 2, volume 1, number 2, with the tailor. Yeah. We didn't expect him to look like that, but he's that little fluff ball, and we just died. It was just like, he's so perfect, just so perfect. Just I love it so much. We love this.
Read each other's minds at this point, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we do. It's really sad. Garrett and I we talk almost. We do talk every day. In fact, I just hung up with him about 20 minutes ago. But we talk every day, and we have a chat for our group, for Dave, and who Dave is. The lettering, everybody's, letters just don't get enough love, because I tell you what, the lettering this book is a completely, it's an additional character. And it's funny though, Dave has worked with Garrett a lot. And so when he got the script for the first Good Boy, he was getting ready to do it. And he was like, oh, I'll just do this in like a couple hours, because it's Garrett, there's not that many words. And he was like on like the 3rd page, and he was like, what is happening here? There's so many words. And Garrett was like, it's Christy. And I'm like, dang it. So now he knows. He's like, I know who wrote this page. This was you. And I'm like, I like words.
Lucas is adding he's asking a loaded question. And we might have to kill him after you answer this, because he shouldn't know these things. The question is Keanu aware of this? Any reaction from him or the studio that made the film?
Not that we know of. We have had some people. We'd like him to get a copy, and we've put kind of that into motion, just because I think he would think it was great. Because Keanu, and some of the words didn't start with F. Sorry, I just saw Jeff Chandler. Keanu is great. He just seems like he's like somebody who you want to just be your best friend. It's like everybody's like, oh, he's so great. I wanted to be my boyfriend. I'm like, no, I want to be best friends with him. I've got a boyfriend. I want him to be like my best friend and just to hang out with him, because he just seems so nice and so cool and so fun. And he just seems like a really genuinely good person. And he also has good taste because he writes comics also. And so, yeah, I think he would love it. So we'd like him to get it. So we'll see, it would be great. Now, if he reads it and says, I hate it, then I don't want him to get it. So
No, that's the nervous part, right? If you have, if he reads it, he's like, you should burn this with fire.
Usually I'm really nervous when a book comes out. I'm just nervous to get the books tomorrow that's my thing. Because of all the Diamond issues the last few weeks. I was like, please get us our books Tuesday. Please get us our books Tuesday. If not Tuesday, Wednesday at least, Yeah. But I'm usually really, 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 really nervous. But I'm not nervous on this one because I love it. And if somebody doesn't like it, sorry. We love it. I will read this book again and I'm like, oh, that part's so good. And I'm like, what happens next? Oh, wait, I know. But I just love it. And I just can't say enough about Kit's art. Kit is spectacular. He is spectacular. Just so good. So good.
Everyone has to have seen it by now, but I mean, it's just 100% perfect.
Oh,
so good.
He's so good. And I think that's my favorite. Like, I don't even know which is my favorite cover because they're all so great. For our A covers, if people haven't heard, we have Nick Bradshaw. That Nick Bradshaw doing the A covers, and we have Francesco Francavilla doing the B covers, and they're so different.
Yep. And
you just can't. It's you can't choose. It's like, but I have like the background on my phone is the 2B. I love these covers so much. They're all so spectacular. I'm blown away that they did such a great job on it. And Francesco they're all great. They're just perfect. And they're so different. So it's like, when you get a lot of like the million covers, the million variants, and you're like, these look the same. Why would they do like 10 variants for this book when like 5 of them look like the same thing? But with this, it's like, they're really different, and they're both beautiful, and we keep the same kind of like color schemes through all 3 issues for them. And so if you put them together, they're just beautiful. And Francesco said this was the most fun he's had doing a cover in a long time. So that really meant a lot, so I was just like, oh, but
hi to Richard Ship, who's saying hi to you.
Hi, Richard.
Yeah, I get 20,000 letters for my name, and you get a real simple and doc. I like it. And Chuck White says the Bradshaw 3 cover is amazing.
Oh my gosh. He did the second cover, with the tie where you straighten it and you just see from like here down. It's spectacular. And so I was like, I don't know how he's going to top that one. Between the first one and the second one, there's no way. And he just kept going and topped it. And we have some really cool people doing the covers for the second volume also. We can't announce it yet, but it's pretty awesome.
So did you have anybody that kind of saw the project start and then just connected with you for doing covers because they were fans of the concept? Did you ever have that, or did you approach everybody that's doing covers?
For the cover, for most of the, like all the store variant covers, that's up to the store usually.
Sure.
So they have the people who want to do theirs. They want to do theirs. Now I know, so there's a group on Facebook that's Stray Dogs Good Boy. It's this group I think it's got over 1,000 members now. It's crazy. But Trish Forstner, who is the Stray Dogs artist and co-creator, she is a huge Good Boy fan, and she wanted to do a cover, and so she did one, and it's a service dog cover. And a lot of the covers that we do, also we sell, the money goes to charity, all dog related. So like even Nick Bradshaw, who's also one of the nicest people on the planet, for his fee, he said just for the first book, he's like, no, just send it to a charity. So
man, how awesome is that?
He's, you know, Canadians are nice, but he just takes it to a whole other level. He's just the epitome of nice. But I think now people are starting to go, hey, this is awesome. I really want to do a cover for this. We've had a few people. Garrett usually does for Source Point, he is the cover guy. He does all the variants. He's the variant guy. But when we were trying to figure out who we wanted on this book, Garrett was like, well, we could try Art Adams, but, and I'm like, I don't know Art Adams. And I was like, well, we could get Nick Bradshaw. He was like, we can't get Nick Bradshaw. And I was like, we can probably get Nick Bradshaw. So I sent him a message that night, and the next morning I woke up and he's like, yeah, that'd be so cool. And I was like, So the only time I've ever not heard Garrett speechless was when that morning when I was like, call me as soon as you get up. So he called me, and he was in his car on the way to the gym, and I told him, and he said he like knocked his seat back. So he was like laying flat in his car. He was not driving at the time. He was like laying flat in his car, just like he couldn't say anything. Like, are you there? So yeah. And then when we got it in, it was just great. And Francesco's always does a great job. So, and he's one of my favorite artists. And so I'm always up for Francesco.
Lucas has a cool idea. He votes for James O'Barr.
Oh, for a volume 2 variant.
Mm-hmm.
That could be, just we may have some things cooking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping this goes on and on. So I'm guessing that the beats in your stories aren't always only motivated by revenge or vengeance. There has to be some other thing for Flint to wrap his chops around.
Or
is he just always about revenge? How many people can you kill that are involved?
Well, they're not just, in this story, they're not just people.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it's an anthropomorphic, universe. So we got all sorts of things in there. It starts off, just like, John with the revenge, and John Wick. But it is more than, this is more than, killing a dog. He killed his human, which is important. And it is a lot of it is for revenge and vengeance. And then it just gets to be, the second volume is completely different. Nobody will ever even see it coming. What's going to happen there? Because it's not a John Wick, thing. It's a Flint Sparks thing. So, yeah.
I cannot wait.
And my dog Poe is in the second book. He's in number 2. He's
Is he named Poe? Will we know?
No, he's named Foz. Yeah, we didn't name him Poe. We didn't want him, but it's him. So
do you want to give Poe a big head? What?
I didn't want to give him a big head, but we do. I do want to get a little stamp pad for him so that he can rebark some books.
Rebark some books. I love it.
I say things like this to Garrett, and he's like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "There's so much, Garrett." Yeah. Well, his dog is going. Well, all of this is kind of based on his dog, his service dog, and she passed away. So that's who Flint is kind of looks like. So Kona, and so she passed away. But he has a new dog who's going to be in training soon to be his new service dog, and so that's little Grizzly. So Grizz is there. So Grizz might make an appearance in one of the stories too. You just
one of the producers wants to know if passing gas is one of his weapons.
I just saw that. I almost spit my coffee out. If you don't know this, when we do our live show, usually our dogs are here, and Poe will pass gas, and it is the most. Sometimes you can taste it. It's so bad. It's so bad. I mean, it's just. I don't think I can go on. It's terrible, and he's just like
amazing at it. It's like
whatever. So that should be his weapon, but yeah, that's right. He will clear a room. It's terrible. At one point, everybody in the room, I'm on the camera, so I can't leave, but everybody else left, and I was like, "Hey, that's not fair. Come back. You guys have to share this with me." Yeah, it's pretty bad. Sometimes though, it's Buddy, and we blame Poe. It's our other dog. Yeah, because one time Poe wasn't even in here, and I'm like, what? Oh, that's Buddy. So I think sometimes we blame the wrong dog. So, but
Okay, so are there any attributes of Flint that come from you as a person?
I don't think so. He has much better style than I do. There are things that happen in the story that come from me. There's not from me, but things we love. We're both like huge Hot Fuzz fans. Hot Fuzz is like my top 5 favorite movies in the world, and I've seen it probably literally 200 times. I love it so much. And so we have little elements of that in there. There's little elements of a lot of things that we love in there. We'll put them in and see if the other person sees it. And it's like, oh my gosh. The other day we were just talking, this is not answering your question, I'm sorry. We were talking about, we got a page back and David lettered it. And we were like, oh my gosh, it's so great. It's so blah, 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 And he said, it wasn't even for Good Boy. It was for a different book, Postmasters, which we're doing. Sorry. I'm going to finish the story. Because Postmasters, we're doing our Kickstarter for that is tomorrow.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah. But we got a page back and we were so excited. It was like such a great page. And he goes, I was just like, this is one of my favorites. And he's like, I don't even remember which of us wrote that. And I was like, well, I think it's like there was this, and then I said this, and then you said this, and I don't know. It's like now it's just like our brains are melded. It's really fun. We work really well together because we talk about it. About the script and what we want in it and what's going to happen. And then he'll kind of put the bare bones down, and then I'll go in and fill in, and then we'll talk about it some more. And then one of us or the other, we're always like working on it. So, yeah, it's really good. I really enjoy working with Garrett. We have a lot more coming besides Good Boy. We've got Christmas Caroline coming. We have a YA book, We Eat Gods, that is coming. Postmasters, Blind Justice, which we'll have a special ash can for. It's our take on superheroes. We're kind of making fun of him. He's Blind Justice with his, he's great. So we have at C2E2 this year. We have a special ash can for that. So we've got a lot going on. So
yeah, you do. So which came first? Did the store come first, or are you working in comics creating them come first?
The store.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and now I don't know now that I say about that. I can't remember. I think it was close to the same time, because when I started, I was writing my first comic, The Damnation of Charlie Wormwood.
Mm-hmm.
But didn't really mean to write I meant to write a comic, but I didn't think it would ever get published. It's when I was getting my my doctorate, and I was reading a lot about comic critiques, and I read some things that just didn't seem right to me. And I realized, if I'm going to critique a comic, I need to be able to understand the process, not just read about the process, but understand the process. So I decided I was going to, write this book. And my friend Chris and I had just, the prison program we taught in had just wrapped up, and it lost its funding. So we would just get together and talk about, all the stories and everything. And we were like, we should do something with this. And he's like, well, we could do a book. And I'm like, oh, we can do a comic. So we started writing, had this idea for a comic, and we pitched it. And when Thrillbent was still a thing, the online comic thing, we pitched it to John Rogers, and he loved it. And so we were like, okay, well, let's do it. And then we got Chi on board, and Troy did the lettering, and it was fun. That Chris had to go on and get a real job, unfortunately. So I kind of just kept writing it, but I always keep him on because it was our idea to begin with. And I probably wouldn't have had the courage to do it if it wasn't for Chris, Chris Carr, because he was very instrumental in deciding what we're going to do. So I just kind of finished that, and I think it was just about the same time, because it was before we changed to an All Yeah store, and that was a year. Because we had, so I think it was about the same time when I was like writing it and learning the store and trying to do my doctorate. It was interesting. Yeah, then I took a year off of writing that my dissertation, so that I could learn the store. And so it took me a year longer than it should have, but still made it.
All right. Well, I just want to tell all the audience here, if you ever make it to Muncie, you should go and see Dr. Christy at Oh Yeah Comics. Yeah. And also, where should they hit you up on social media?
I'm on Facebook, Christina Blanch. Twitter, I'm so bad at Twitter and Instagram. I always forget about them. I know it's just too much. Christy Blanch on Twitter, and I believe it's also Christy Blanch on Instagram. And our store is All Yeah Comics. We're the one in Muncie, because we have one in Skokie with Art and Franco, and one in Harrison, New York, that we all own that one. A bunch of us just decided, let's do another one. So also, if you're ever in those areas, go see them. They're great. Mark Hammond runs the New York store, and he's fabulous. And then we have our show, What We Do in the Comic Shop, that we're doing, and trying to get back on track. It's just, there's so much. We're also moving, and so and with con season, it was just like we didn't do anything for a year and a half, travel wise, and then it was 4 conventions in 4 weekends, and I was just like, I can't do this and run the shop, and we're writing all this stuff, and it's gotten to be a little crazy. That you do a million things. You wear a million different hats. So,
all right, everybody, we've run out of time.
Oh, already? Are you serious?
I know. Yeah, I totally time. I know. It goes really fast when we get to chit chat. So the first order of operations is probably call Dr. Christy at Oh Yeah and get one directly from her. Good boy. But your local comic shop, make sure that you have it on your poll, because this is going to be a super hot book on Wednesday, so don't miss it. Thank you for sticking with us. Stay tuned. There's more awesome stuff coming up next on The Experience. Thank you, Dr. Christy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye, everybody.